Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with my second video on the new screen recorder and software, so fingers crossed it goes well. I will be doing a voiceover for the majority of this project. Today what we're going to be making is the cover. Well, we're gonna make the cover for our Winter Wonder Journal number 2. And we're going to actually do a crackle effect on the cover. And depending on how long the video goes with the voiceover, I have a lot of control over the length of the video. So we should be able to build our topper as well. So I'm going to talk to you about the supplies and the plan, and then I'll flip over to the voiceover so that I can just get in the zone and I can do what I need to do, and I'll just come in and talk over that recording. So I've got my gaffer's tape. This is what I like to use to bind my journals in terms of holding the sections together, because I like to use chipboard. You don't have to use chipboard. You could use cereal boxes or whatever you like, but it's my preference. So that's what I'm using. So I've got some of that. I have my Payne's Gray golden fluid acrylic, which we'll be using to make our cover. And I also have a light gray. So I thought those would be very complementary. I think I also have the white. Oh, and the white is right here as well in case I want to do something with white. Not sure about that. So I'm just going to set those aside. I have my gesso, because we're going to tape these together and then we're going to gesso it so that we have a good coating to protect our cardboard. So the chipboard is actually compressed cardboard, and so when it gets wet, it's going to warp. It still does warp some, but not as much. So it's going to create a barrier between our paints and the cardboard itself. So we're going to do a coat of gesso on both sides, which that's partly why I'm going to do a voiceover, because that takes some time in terms of drying. So you have to do the whole one side, let it dry, do the whole other side, let it dry, that kind of thing. Got a couple brushes just for ease of this process. And these are my chipboard pieces that are already cut to size. So let me give you the dimensions here. So the spine is going to be 3 inches because it's going to be a 3 signature journal. So I like to have 1 inch per signature. That's just my recipe. You do not have to do that. But I find that that allows me to not have a gator mouth. Sometimes mine will pop up a little bit or pop open a little bit, but not too bad. So, and I'm just remembering one more thing that I don't want to forget. So give me just a quick second to set out. This might not be the seam binding I use, but I want to make sure I put a closure on this underneath this topper before we glue it on. So I'm just going to set that there as a reminder. I've got some, oh, and then I'm sorry, it's a work night. And I have another medical issue. So I'm like, oh, come on, give me a break. But I'm trying to breathe through it. So the width of the cover is 5 3/4, and the height is 8 3/4. So that's a little bit big. I did resize I mentioned in a previous video that I realized I had to redo all of my signatures that I had pulled and folded and all that because I had picked a kit that was, the pages were smaller, and I was making my ephemera for a bigger journal. So that's all fixed now. So I also have a little bit of lace, but that we'll get to the topper bit in a bit. This is going to be our focal image. It's probably not going to have all of this on it. I'll probably be cutting her out in some form or fashion. We've got some other choices for layering up some stuff, some music page, some white embossed paper I thought would be fun to bring in some of that snowy effect with some white. I've got this specialty paper. Almost looks like it's got a pink tint to it. Isn't that interesting? You guys probably don't see pink, do you? Still getting used to the small view on my monitor there. I've got some gray I thought would be fun. And I may not use all of this. And then I've got this iridescent stuff that I thought would be really fun. I might do that instead of the white, that speckled white one. And then I've got a little bit of gray. This is also a specialty paper. So, but we don't need this yet. We've got a long way to go before we're ready for the topper. So, oh, and I've got my crackle medium. Now I'm hoping this is not going to be a problem. This is kind of old. So as long as it can shake, you're good. I got this at Craft Warehouse, I don't know, so many years ago, so it should be fine. So again, we don't need that quite yet. So let me show you how I do this. And each signature will have 6 pages. So that's my little recipe there. So what I like to do is I like to lay these out like so. And then it doesn't matter which side you start on. And I like to leave a gap of about, about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to reach and grab my clear tape real quick here. And just so that I can kind of tack these a little bit down so that they don't move. Okay. So I'm just going to estimate that there's 1/8 of an inch-ish between those 2 pieces. And let me bring this in for you. I'm going to practice with my zoom. Boom. Isn't that epic? I am celebrating. And I'm just going to put a little piece of tape here. It's not going to show or anything, so it's not a big deal. And I'm going to put another piece down here. Okay. So that when we go to put our gaffer's tape on, this isn't going to move. So I'm going to get through, so I do one, so we'll need 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces because I like to go on the back side as well. So let me just cut these really quick. Okay, so now we're going to pick up with the voiceover. And right now I'm just putting on a strip of this gaffer's tape on the front side of this intersecting piece, the spine with either the front or the back cover. And I do another piece on the back side and wrap it around. But I will tell you now that I'm after the fact, because this is a voiceover, having them overlap was not a good idea because it actually showed on one side of the journal cover, and I didn't like that. Now, if you were just covering it with fabric or whatever, it wouldn't matter, which is why I didn't think about it. In the future, if I was going to do some similar work, I would not have them overlap. I would just have a meet at the end, cut that extra off, and call it good. But I really like the extra layer of thickness of that tape there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this edge as well. I did have a little bit of a difficulty here. It moved at the bottom, but I was able to just lift it up and just apply another piece of that clear tape, and that was just fine. I don't like doing voiceovers, you guys. It doesn't matter if only hours have passed. I can't remember what I was doing. It feels like it's so cut and spliced together, and I know even when I watch it back, it doesn't really come across that way, at least to me, but I don't like it. But this video was in total 2 hours and 30 minutes in real time. Now that was with some things not being cut out, like I would forget to pause the camera when I was drying or whatever, but it was still at least a 2-hour video. So thank goodness for the ability to cut and splice and speed things up. So just getting one of my craft mats out, because what we're going to do here to the base of this chipboard, as I mentioned in the intro, is you want to have some kind of barrier, and gesso is your best barrier because it is an acrylic medium that is going to create a layer of protection between your mediums that are going to go on top of your cover and the chipboard that's underneath. So it's really important because otherwise it will absorb. And what I was pointing to there was that the gaffer's tape does tend to make the mediums bead up on them, but I've never known it to be a problem. But off camera, I believe it was off camera, maybe during one of the drying times, I did go ahead and heat set the areas where there's tape, and I applied an extra layer of gesso on there. And the only reason I did that was because I want to make sure it's adhered so that whatever, that when we started building up the crackle medium and that paint layer, it's not going to crackle and fall off, because it isn't adhere to the cardboard. And so that gesso again is giving you that base, as well as I did in the end, you'll find out before we close the video that I did do a satin varnish on top of the whole front and back cover to seal everything up. So just giving a little bit of extra gesso there. I want to make sure that it is nice and covered. Again, just to maintain that barrier that we really, really need. So I'm going to do the drawing here, and playing around with my transitions in the new software is also challenging. And here I was kind of debating on whether or not I wanted to have the light gray be my base and my crackle layer be my Payne's Gray, or vice versa. I did decide to go with the Slate Gray. This is just a DecoArt Americana paint. And playing, guess I must have been zoomed in. I must have zoomed in earlier on the video. I don't know. But anyway, zooming out. I love the zoom feature. I was going to use that smaller brush, and I decided I really wanted to cover more territory quickly. And part of the reason for that is when you start to get to the crackle step, you have to move somewhat quickly, and you don't want a lot of extra brush strokes, because that moves the crackle medium in ways that you might not like. Now, I'm never looking for a perfect crackle effect, so I do it my own way. In fact, I didn't even really let my crackle medium dry as much as I was supposed to. You're going to see me hesitate as we move through this a little bit as I'm reading the bottle to figure out what the instructions are, because it had been a little while since I'd used it. So, but I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get there. I am making sure that I have a good coat of this, and I'm going to be looking at the bottle and deciding that I do need a little bit extra, because it says it needs to have a pretty good coat of this first base layer. So I'm reading the first time the instructions. It's good to read the instructions before you start, just an FYI. So giving just a little bit more paint, and then we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of time and let that dry, and then we'll come back and we'll do the layer of the crackle. And I do want to say I want to apologize for that focus. So that's my next thing I need to tackle. I need to figure out, now that I have the new software, if I have more control over autofocus features, because it's going in and out constantly in this video, and I know that for some that's really difficult and frustrating. So please know that I will be working on that. I don't think it's a cool way to display videos, so I will be working on it. So here we're coming in with the crackle medium, and I would say that the paint was probably 78%, maybe 80% completely dry. So you do want it to be fairly dry. And you can see I'm being a little bit ginger with the crackle medium, because I don't want to disturb a lot of the paint that's underneath, especially if it's not completely dry. And you don't want to overwork this, because that can change the crackle effect. The crackle effect we got on this was absolutely epic. The last time I did it was on the miniature lap book journal, but that was such a small little thing, like it wasn't difficult at all to work with. So this was a little bit more, I was more concerned. And so this is where we're at now, where that crackle medium is very, very, very wet. But I've tried it when it's been drier, and I've tried it when it's wetter, and I prefer going in when it's a little bit more than tacky, so kind of wet versus tacky. The instructions say tacky, but if you used crackle medium before, you're probably familiar with that. But yeah, follow the directions if you want to, if you want to. I've used it enough just in my crafting life that I don't. Again, I'm not looking for perfect results, so I'm going to just be happy with whatever I get. And I'm going really light-handed. Maybe it doesn't look like it because I'm using such a large brush, but I am very light-handed here, and trying not to go over the same area more than once, because I don't want to affect it. You can already see we're getting crackle on the left side, which is absolutely epic. Very, very fast results. So very cool. I might be doing some of this crackle stuff inside and on a journal page just to play around with it more. We'll see. So yeah. So just giving that a good coat, and we're going to go ahead and let that dry. And I did end up coming back, and it was the next day because it was taking so long to dry that I couldn't even work on it anymore the night before. And so I would like touched it and it was still wet. So I left it to dry overnight. It's mostly good now. I'm just showing you a close-up of that crackle. Now, if you wanted, there's different techniques to get smaller crackle, but I wanted it to be big and bold because it's a pretty big surface. So again, you could play around with that and decide what you like. So. But I love the crackle, and I love the gray, that light gray peeking through. I think it's a great contrast for the cover. So we're going to set that aside because we're going to start working on the topper for the journal. And so I'm going to, I'll talk to you a little bit as we move through this, but I was really moving through it very intuitively. So again, I'll try to explain. I'm bringing in the Payne's Gray again and the golden iridescent, no, it's a silver anyway, iridescent fine silver, I believe, to do some accents, which you'll be able to see as we go along. I didn't end up using the distress tool, and this is the lace that we're going to use for the closure. I decided to do that instead of the seam binding. That piece of vintage lace, I don't remember if I showed it in the intro, but forgive me if that's repetitive. And then just some of the other papers that I believe, showed you a quick look at the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and get going. I did realize here that I didn't pull any corrugated cardboard. I always build my toppers on a piece of corrugated cardboard. So I'm going to get up and grab that cardboard really quick, and then we're going to come back and prep that as well. The process is similar in that you need to seal that surface, otherwise your paints is just going to soak into that cardboard. It's going to make it soggy. It's going to cost you more of your materials because you're going to have to use more paint to get the color and effect that you want. So again, I'm going to be doing a gesso layer, but I'll be showing you that here as we move along. Now, I can't remember, let me grab this while I'm doing the voiceover and see if I can tell you how wide I ended up making that cardboard. I didn't make a note of it. I think I do show you on my ruler here, but just in case this is moving too quickly and it's confusing. The width of it is 5 inches and the height of it is 7.5. So really, really good size, and it's going to fit perfectly on the journal cover. And so I was just talking here about how I don't want the topper to take over, to take all of the space on the front cover. So I wanted to have a margin of an edge. What am I trying to say? I want to be able to see the front of the cover a little bit on all edges of the topper. Not saying that very well. It is a Friday after work, and I'm trying to get this done. So that I can get the video up, hopefully on Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Got a lot of plans and a lot of things I want to do, so this was one of the things I really need to get done. And here it's just, I just gave you the measurements, but basically I'm just showing you with my fingers, how I'm deciding upon that and just trimming that off there. I won't be doing any more ephemera online for the Winter Wonder Journal number 2. Now that I've got the cover built, I will be able to start putting my signatures in and get going, and then it takes me like a day and I'm done. So it'll be epic, and then I'll do a flip through for you guys. So that is our cardboard. So now I'm going to speed this part up because it was fairly tedious and it actually quite hurt my fingers. This cardboard was pretty tough. So I'm getting out my score tool there, and I'm going to start tearing off the top layer of that corrugated cardboard, mainly around the edges. You can see I did cut down the center there off to the left, but I didn't really need to do that because that's all going to be covered by the layers of paper that we will be putting together. We will be putting together. Oh my goodness. Sometimes I think I should just go to bed first before I try to do this, but the show must go on, as they say. So I mentioned in the intro that I am now combating another physical issue, so I'm not happy about that, but you know, that's what happens when I'm going to be 59 next month in May, so it happens when your body, you know, starts to break down, and my body's had a lot of trauma and a lot of babies and a lot of stress from trauma recovery and all of the years that it took me to heal from my original trauma. So I'm just trying to take it day by day and trust that we'll figure it out, and we'll do hopefully the least invasive resolution as possible. So so those of you who pray, I would appreciate your prayers just as it unfolds. I've been referred to another specialty, so yeah, but I won't go into the details because it's fairly personal. So, but anyway, yeah, that's just a little piece of my life, new piece of my life. But you know, you just got to take it as it comes. So just showing you that corrugated cardboard and how I like to just expose some of the underneath layer and leave some of the top layer there. And so now I'm going to give it just a really quick and fast coat of gesso. I like the white gesso because I feel like, well, for one thing, I always paint over it. If you weren't going to paint over it, but you wanted to protect that corrugated cardboard, you could use clear gesso, and that would do the same trick. It would create that barrier, but it would not take away from the color of your cardboard. So that's just food for thought there in case you want a little bit of a different option there. But I just generally paint it with the gesso because I always paint it with another color. So totally up to you guys. Okay, we're going to go ahead and give this a quick dry, and then we'll come back and we're going to do a glaze over this. So that's what it looks like all painted and dried. And so I'm going to be using I grabbed the Payne's Gray. I actually wanted the raw umber. So I'm using my golden fluid acrylic and raw umber, and I'm putting out it's about a quarter size. And then it's 1 part paint to 2 parts of fluid matte medium or glazing medium, whichever you prefer. Matte medium tends to be less expensive. And then you're going to go ahead and just mix it up. I'm just mixing it right there on my glass mat, and I'm going to just cover this whole area with that glaze, and then I'm going to wipe it up or dab it, and it's going to leave that color down in the ribs of that corrugated cardboard, which is why I love using corrugated cardboard. I just think it's so beautiful, and it creates such a beautiful effect, such a mixed media feel that just really draws me. But I did want to talk a second about the focus here. I'm thinking that maybe if I put some kind of colored paper or something under my glass mat, maybe that would help my focus. So I might be experimenting with that. I don't want to put anything sticky on my desk, and I don't want to put anything sticky on the back of my glass mat. So I'm really debating over how I want to handle that. So I'll be playing with that because maybe that would fix my focus. Maybe there's just way too much white in my videos. That might be the real issue. So here I'm going in with the second coat of the glaze, and I'm just focusing on the edges because that's what we're going to see around our topper layered pieces. So again, just dabbing very, very gently. I don't want to pull very much of that paint off. So creates a beautiful effect. Look at that. Just grungy goodness right there. Grungy goodness. So we're going to dry that really quick. And I'm going to fix that transition. So here it is all dried and ready. So we're going to set that aside because we're going to start working on the paper piecing, which is basically the layering up of a variety of papers that I feel create a really beautiful topper for a journal. Of course, you could do whatever you choose, whatever suits you. So you're going to watch me do a number of things here. I'm not going to really talk through this part because it's it's going to be hard for me to explain, because as I was tearing and moving through it, I would look at it and be like, I don't like it. I'm going to change my mind. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this part to music. I hope you don't mind. Just enjoy the music, and I'll catch you on the other side when we're ready to start doing the next step. I might pipe in from here and there if I feel it would be useful. So I realized as I was starting to tear those papers that I really needed to, because I wanted to use that iridescent paper, that I needed to come in with my accents with the Payne's Gray fluid acrylic and the iridescent silver fine paint there before we could move on, because I'm going to be covering up the whole topper with that iridescent paper, and it turned out so beautiful. I'm so glad that I did that. And just a little bit of a note on that, it's kind of it's interesting, because as you do this process more and more and you are more artistic, you're going to recognize what suits you and what looks good to you, and so do that thing. You have to figure out what that thing is for you. There's not anything that I can teach you. I can demonstrate what I do, but at the end of the day, it really is about what is appealing to you. And so, yeah, so I was changing my mind right and left, because I was like, oh no, I think I want this, or oh no, I think this would be a great accent. And so what I end up doing with the iridescent paper is I'm going to use my brads, and I'm going to actually put brads through the corners of it, right through that cardboard, and I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and let you continue watching. We're going to give this one more quick dry, and then we'll return to the layering of the paper. So I knew at this point that I wanted the girl, obviously she's our star on this topper. I wanted a little bit of that book page. You already saw me, or music page, you already saw me fussing a lot with how I wanted to use it. I really wanted the words to show on the edge, but that didn't really work out. But I knew I wanted the girl, and I wanted some of that white embossed paper, and I wanted the music paper. But then I remembered that I have that textured gray paper that is just perfect tone for this journal and for the cover, that I decided to go ahead and do a rough tear around all those edges. And I'm making it not quite as big as the corrugated cardboard there, so about there. I'm going to tear a little bit off the bottom. And then I'm actually going to distress it a little bit, not with the distress tool, but with my Vintage Photo ink, just to bring out some brown tones in that texture, which actually turned out really, really cool. Just reaching there for my my makeup brush is how I like to use to apply ink in this way. So I'm just going over all of that beautiful texture of that gray paper. I do use another sliver of it later where I do hold the piece up so that you can see what that looks like once it's inked up. So I just neglected to do it at this point. So So actually just getting to the end of this. So I did, hopefully you saw that that last segment where I held up that other piece of gray paper. I wanted to bring that color back in as a layer in this topper. So, and then we're gluing the girl on. Absolutely beautiful. I do glue a word on a little piece of paper. I covered it with some of that vintage lace to create kind of a label on the top of the journal so that she'd be finished off with, I believe it says Winter's Majesty. So yeah, super fun. I was thinking about trying to distress the edges of that cardboard, but that wasn't really working. I might do a little bit of the Payne's Gray around those edges just to give it a little bit of a frame, but we'll see. So we're done with the topper part, so I'm just going to bring over the cover again and show you what it looks like. It's still a little bit tacky because I did the other side. So I only showed you on camera doing one side of the crackle process and one side of the gesso process. So hopefully that wasn't confusing. I don't think I mentioned it. Little nervous about this whole filming with the new software. So and I'm not going to cut that out. I neglected to, yeah. This is a rough one. It'll get better, guys. Getting used to the new stuff. So really loved the crackle. And so what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to go ahead and let this completely dry. I'm going to seal it with DecoArt DuraClear satin varnish that's going to seal all that in so it can't chip or be knocked around. And then I'll be putting the topper on top. I did realize I'm going to make it a removable cover. So I will see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.